So let me introduce Nonny de Peña to you. De Peña has been named the Godmother of Virtual Reality by the Guardian and Engadget, and one of the 20 most influential Latinos in tech by CNET. She's a pioneer of virtual reality and immersive journalism. As the founder and CEO of Emblematic Group, she has collaborated with PBS, Frontline, Wall Street Journal, Planned Parenthood, the True Colors Fund, the New York Times, and other organizations to create impactful virtual reality experiences depicting real-life events. And we are now, we're ready to begin. Please welcome Nonny. What'd you think? Oh, you're crying!
VR, virtual reality, I can put you on seat in the middle of the story. You get this whole body sensation.
There's a bunch of cops here. They're like sitting around something going on. Oh, right here. That's not cool.
On the other side of the fence, there's all these people just like kicking and beating.
You can have what I call this duality of presence. A real feeling as if you were in the middle of something that you normally see on TV.
So I started applying all these ideas where I've made immersive journalism. And we all know being there is the most important part of understanding almost anything that's happening. Along in a partnership with America's premier investigative documentary series, Frontline, we have incredible access on solitary confinement cell. What that is photogrammetry. And it's exact photographs of a cell. You are walking around the exact cell, the exact footprint. You are in the room. This works so well. Many people on scene have real stories.
Okay. Do you hear me now, Nonny?
Here's another video for you.
Nice to meet you. Molt gust. Welcome to Barcelona. Benvinguda a Barcelona. I don't know, Nonny, if I could ask you to raise your arms. A veure si pot aixecar els braços. Ja veieu que s'aixeca. Keep them up, because now we'll show the robot. Ara anirem a veure el robot. Ja veieu. Can you move them a little bit more? A veure si es pot moure una mica més. Up and down. Doncs ja veieu que el robot reacciona perfectament amb la Nonny. Nonny, I'm ready to interview you now for a few minutes. Li farem una entrevista a la Nonny per veure què li ha semblat aquesta experiència. You're a journalist, ella és una periodista, i fa una estona entrevistar un científic de Barcelona. You just interviewed a researcher from Barcelona, but in a body of a robot. What was that experience like?
So for me, it started to feel very natural after a while. Occasionally, there's a problem with the kind of bit stuff. But beyond that, very quickly, I'm there in Barcelona with you.
Believe it or not, I also interviewed folks from different sides of the Catalonian conflict, but in the body of the robot. But we then ended up publishing a paper about this idea of this embodiment within a robot and having, it was the most extraordinary sensation because even now I kind of remember what I had to do to make the robot move into other place. And then I saw a photograph of somebody else inside the body wearing the same suit that I was in, and inside the body of the robot. And I had this creepy sensation, like, what was she doing inside my body? Right? This was my body inside the robot. And so that's a really weird idea to think we can use the same body, right? But really the story goes, like, how did I end up in two places at once? And that was what I was wearing when I was driving the robot. So I'm local. Actually, my father was head of the art department here at UCLA for many years, professor here, so I actually grew up wandering around this campus. But from Venice High School, I was, which was a kind of interesting place where that kind of cage there in the middle, that was a cage of a woman named Verna Loy. Maybe you remember her as a famous actress. She was the only famous person at Venice High. And the theme of senior class idea was that you had to destroy Verna Loy before you left campus in some way. So they put this cage around her because her head kept being lopped off. But then somebody stuck newspapers in and lit it on fire, right? Like, that was like always something that happened in Florida. But the point is, that was kind of my educational preparation. Not exactly for Harvard, where I got in, and showed up. I had never been to the East Coast in my life when I went off to college, right? And they were offering this basic programming course. And I immediately dove in and loved it, and I was teaching all my friends. But then you go into those classrooms, right, and there's all guys, and they know how hard it is, and I came to finish high school, and I was so underprepared, and I stopped coding. And I shouldn't have, but I kept, like, we were always really interested. I was teaching myself a bit. And if I remember CompuServe, I was Nonny at CompuServe, so it was still in school. And I won their award for the most interesting use of the program, which I did a piece. I tracked down all these folks who've been involved with Chappaquiddick. They used to have this early form of nexus, and I tapped into it and learned how to go into it and how to try to track people down. And then came out the Howard Rangel book of virtual reality in the early 1990s. And when I read that book, I kind of knew that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't really know how to get back out into coding, even though I was teaching myself HTML, et cetera, et cetera. And I went in became a correspondent for Newsweek, a print journalist, then started making documentary films, and started making this film on Constitutional, which had a large segment on Guantanamo Bay Prison. And we had this family friend who used to, say he'd call up NPR, and he'd say, "So what do you, great story on Guantanamo Bay today." And they'd go, "Well, what story?" The prison man. He'd go, "Well, what story?" And he'd go, "Exactly." And so that kind of sentiment of this story that remained untold, inaccessible, off people's radar, younger people not knowing about it, drove me to want to do something else about it. And along with a digital artist named Peggy Wild, who some of you may know is also teaching here now, and is a fantastic person, we applied to the MacArthur Foundation Bayback Grant to translate an existing property into digital media, and to take, wanted to do something in a place where you were denied access. So we made this virtual but accessible version of Gitmo in contrast to the inaccessible prison camp. Oh, this mic's not working? I'm not sure. Okay, use this mic. Is this better?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, this mic's not working. Sorry. I'll just stay here. So, anyway, so, and by the way, I'm going to go over some old stuff, and I've got a lot of new stuff coming up. But anyway, it was originally built in Second Life. Then it got into the Moss Museum of Modern Art. And I needed to rebuild it in Unity, which is a gaming engine. I had to learn C#. At this point, I was a research fellow at USC, and I wanted to learn how to code, so I walked into a room, but it didn't look like this. That's the Shutterstock photo, right? So now we're talking 2012, right? It looked like this. I actually grabbed my camera out and I took pictures. And because I couldn't believe I was walking to a room full of 32 guys. But at this point, I'm in my 40s, and like, I don't care, I'm not walking out again, right? I walked out once, and I'm never walking out again. And I remember one of the guys, it wasn't so great for all of them, totally. One of the guys turned to another one and said, we're having this party tonight, there's going to be real girls there. So like, I know what isn't a perfect situation for them either. I do always say now in my talks that if you find a woman walk into one of these rooms, welcome her, make her feel good about being there, right? It's the only way I'm going to start to really chip away because it's crazy that is still happening. Anyway, I was then given a professional version by the head of Unity. I sent him an email to go off to Moscow, and that was impressive to those guys, so they were nice to me and helped me code, along with a lot of other people. But we did stick to some journalistic principles that I'd learned for many years working with, like I said, correspondent for Newsweek, I've written for New York Times, I've written for, many major news organizations. This was the way that individuals were smuggled to the prison in Gitmo, and this was the way that we took control of your avatar in the virtual experience. You ended up in a digital cage, but we also really wanted to deal with the issue of habeas corpus. Like, there's a term that you hear all the time, but what does it really mean? So we designed this wall in a secondary system of prisons built in these shipping containers. And basically you would click on the wall and say, can I call my family? And it'd come back to say, you can't call your family. Same thing, you can't call your lawyer. What am I in for? I don't have the information. And all the things that make it really clear what habeas corpus rights when they're gone, what it really means, right? That allowed me to get an invitation to work with these very significant virtual reality researchers, Mel Slater, Maria Sanchez-Vives, they were working on a piece about the bystander effect. So it's been very much accepted that this event occurred with Casey Genovese, who supposedly, when she was murdered, that nobody called the police, right? Based on this New York Times article. Well, they wanted to sort of study that effect. What they were finding, they were working with a guy in England who had all this video of closing time at the pub, and they were finding that wasn't really the case, that like, that if there were more people there were, the more likely somebody would try to intervene in these bar fights. If they stopped you from intervening, then all hell would break loose. So they made this VR piece where this guy walks in with the red wrong football jersey, and the other guy gets up and is ready to kill him, right? You can see how close he is, right? And I remember being in that space, and I was pulling on the headset cable. I was trying to get into the scene, and that was the moment where I was like, wow, I can no longer make stuff that puts my audience out there. They need to be in the story with me. They were right. This article came out in 2016. Well, there was no question that the attack occurred. In fact, the portrayal of 38 witnesses as fully aware was erroneous. The article grossly exaggerated what had happened that night. In fact, people did call, and they did try to intervene, and they did try to help. But their research was actually ahead of this article coming out. So I, at the same time, because I'd been working in Second Life and was at USC as a research fellow, and I was taking students into Second Life, I felt I should do a little bit of research about sexual harassment in Second Life, right? It's a classic picture, right? I did the study where we're looking at how often did sexual harassment happen there, and there's a lot of incredible things young women said. Virtually raped repeatedly and chased. I had a giant penis over my head, which I couldn't get rid of without relogging. And this was a video I found of what the giant penises would do in Second Life, right? Yeah. So anyway, ridiculous. So this study, what we really did is we were looking at, did women feel the same way they do in the offline world and on like chat boards and stuff? They find situations more harassing than men do. They report them as feeling more harassing than we report them. But then looking at the survey data, I suddenly realized that we actually had data of men who were playing with a female avatar. I hadn't asked why or how they felt or whatever. We just happened to notice that we'd actually collected this data, and we can flip this and take a look. And indeed, we found that women felt more harassed than men did in this virtual reality space. But what was really amazing was that when male played using females, they felt even more significantly harassed than the women did. Now, why? We don't know. I didn't ask that question. It was because they'd never experienced it before. Was it, whatever. But anyway, it was a super interesting thing. But, it's sort of an amazing idea that there's this digital representation of oneself that you kind of see through this window. At this point, Second Life is this little screen, right? You're not even in the middle of it. And yet you would feel harassed and raped and upset, right? And I'm not even going to get into some of the early research on this about how this has been true in text-based worlds as well. But it's really that digital sense of presence of who you are is really powerful. Mel and Mavi called it rare responses if real. Those are the researchers I work with on the other stuff. And we're hardwired to adopt representations of ourselves as real. I've shown the study quite a bit, but if you can see here, this guy's wearing goggles. They connect to that camera, and he's looking at himself from behind. They brought a hammer down in front of this camera, and he jumped, even though he could see his body from behind because he felt like he was where he was sitting, right? More recently, this was a super interesting study that came out of Duke University, in which they were trying to help paraplegics use brain-computer interface robotic attachments to walk. And they put them in VR goggles to try to imagine, the crazy robotic attachments. But what they found totally surprised them was that by imagining their bodies through the goggles, they actually returned control of their physical body. Now, not completely, they weren't jumping out of their chairs, but everybody participated, started having a significant change. They were able to control when they had their bowel movements. So by reimagining their body, they started to have this synapse change. Now, I don't know if anybody's repeated this study yet or where that is, but it was such a surprising result for everybody. Although not that surprising for us, just because of the kind of work we've been doing, right? For example, I had to do that Gitmo work. I had all this Freedom of Information Act material on the way detainees were being treated, and focused on this one story of like how do we deal with this idea of stress positions, right? Torture. What does it really mean to be put in a stress position for how many hours? And taking that data, we built a piece again with Mel Slater. So these were the headset we were working with. It was called Line 5. And we built this piece together. And we used real logs of the interrogation that went on. You can hear it in the other room against Al-Qatani, a guy who spent many, many hours being tortured. And it was censored by the Bush administration. Everybody agreed that. So people would come in and they would see this virtual mirror, right? And they're wearing a breathing strap, so the person's breathing in the mirror at the same time as they are. And you look down and you see like these virtual knees, right? All jammed up. So this is the way people were sitting, just upright, but they're wearing that black breathing strap, right? And afterwards we asked people, what was your body doing? What was your body like? And amazingly, everybody reported that they were hunched over, taking the body of that stress position, when in fact they were sitting upright. And that was kind of an astonishing result for us. And that led to the first paper that we wrote, Immersive Journalism, Immersive Virtual Reality for the First-Person Experience of the News. And this began to introduce this concept of using VR for news telling to the world. And now that's the most downloaded article from the Journal Presence, the MIT Journal Presence, which is kind of amazing. So, of course, there's questions about subjectivity of experience and integrity. And I showed this video, I hope. I apologize, I thought I was going to be. But this is a video that came out after we made our piece, and so we didn't know what was going on in those rooms, right? This is probably the only video that's ever come out right now, what happened inside these rooms. So, kind of give you an idea of the sit down, get up that was going on in those rooms. After making a piece with Mel, I was still working at the journalism school as a research fellow. And the students were doing a piece called Hunger in the Golden State that was now would be considered traditional web video, right? Audio, text, etc. And I wanted to build a VR piece, and none of the students were interested in that at the time. I actually had given a talk at UC Irvine, and the daughter of a professor there, who was graduated from high school, became my intern. And together we started recording audio at food banks, and we recorded a day where a man waiting in this long line who had diabetes, didn't get blood sugar in time, and he dropped into a diabetic coma. So we used that audio to remake it, and I had one person, the
Lost Vital, 1, 2 to no, take 4, mocap ready.
So we used the real audio, and then I had a mocap, a recreation of everything that happened that night. And we had no money, it was like $700 I had my own money to spend. So John Brennan is a talented guy, had to pay everybody from child to mother to woman running the food bank. He was just going nuts. So it was this sort of all-night session of trying to direct this crazy piece. This is what it came out
Okay, he's having a decision. Okay.
So for the guy on the right, some of you may recognize him as Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. I was introducing him to VR for the first time, and he now has a piece at LACMA. But as you can see from, with Alejandro, that huge, directed Birdman and Revenant, wearing that huge contraption. So he's wearing that huge contraption you can see all around. but he's very, very careful not to step on the body at its feet. He really feels like he's in the room with them, right? So it took about 3 years before that piece finally got made. He actually directed Birdman and Revenant in between this period of time when we were talking about making this piece. Anyway. What did you say? That's the piece that got into Sundance. And there are those goggles again, the White 5, $50,000 pair of goggles. The guy was running the lab, Mark Bolas, was like, you're not taking those to Sundance, forget about it. And so we had to make goggles. And the guy in Green Square, I think, is one of the biggest unsung heroes, a guy named Ty Fan, in the making of all this stuff. Anyway, we showed up, the kid is kind of part of the story, he's got his face in massive goggles. We show up with something that looks like this. And this is opening night, and we don't know how people are going to react. So as you can see, she's down on the floor. She's trying to talk to him. She's upset, incredibly concerned. She comes out of the goggles crying. She's already crying. And you see she's trying to talk to them. There's nothing there, right? What a weird idea. And she's like trying to talk to the people. Just a quick look at a kind of interesting footnote on this. PR4, those were signed by Palmer Luckey. He and I, at that point, he's crashed in my hotel room. He was like the intern in the lab, and he crashed in my hotel room, and he drove a truck back for us from this event. 9 months later, started Oculus Rift, which he sold for $3 billion to Facebook. He ended up on the cover of Time magazine. You know, it's good to laugh because there was not a single woman written about in that Time magazine article. Not one was mentioned. So I have Oculus number 154. But the problem with Oculus was that they sat you down in the seat. And I wanted to keep moving around. I wanted that full body experience. So I stapled trackers onto that. That's what all those little white things are. I probably ruined the resale collector's value by doing that, but whatever. It didn't work. So, I think I lost that. I'll have to come back to those. I had to continue to make my own goggles. I had to 3D print them, and you'll see them in a minute. But how did I use my goggles? Well, to tell the story of something like this guy, Anastasio Hernandez Rojas. He had been brought to the United States as a young boy, and then he tried to steal a bottle of tequila and a steak during the downturn for his wife on Mother's Day, got caught, got deported, tried to sneak back in, got beat up by one of the, roughed up by one of the patrol officers who caught him, tried to sneak back in. When reported to the supervisor, they just put him in a dark pen back with the 2 guys who caught him, and they tasered him to death. So 2 people managed to capture audio with their cell phones. The Border Patrol was going around and taking people's phones and their cameras from them. And we used that audio to build a piece that then we brought to BuzzFeed. Again, for walking around. And this is all the gear we used to have to travel with. You see those tons of cameras, and you're going to see the headsets with 3D printing out of my mother's garage in Marcus.
I don't even know what these are. I guess cameras?
Looks like somebody's going to shock me.
That guy's holding a lightsaber back there. I think virtual reality really is like the next big thing. I think it's the new video game or whatever that means.
It's so weird. There's like all these people and I'm like, what is about to happen?
How's this look with my hair? Pretty good, right?
Oh god. Whoa!
This is going to simulate a cell phone, so it's
We're
going to
making our own
when you
controllers.
press this button here,
Yeah.
and you hold it up in front of your cell phone will appear, and you'll have 60 seconds to record whatever you want before your battery dies.
Oh, I see. Oh my god. That's even crazier.
Alright, so there's a bunch of cops here. They're like standing around, something's going on.
Oh, right here. That's not cool.
On the other side of a fence, there's all these people just like kicking and beating this man and he's screaming.
Look at this, and nobody's doing anything about it. Of course nobody's doing anything about it, right? Of course. Because that's what people do, just watch. It's kind of messed up.
Oh, here we go.
I couldn't tell before, but I think he's handcuffed.
I'm looking above. I'm seeing the horror.
Hey! We're recording you!
Already not moving, but
that there's like 5 dudes beating him.
Same thing, they just are not stopping. I don't know, I mean, I can't believe that like is real.
Did not expect a recreation of a real life beating.
I thought it was going to be some sort of, possibly some, entertaining game. That was not the case.
You feel kind of like helpless and isolated.
Hopefully in that situation you actually would be able to like somehow stop it, but I do think like the next best thing is recording it.
Yeah, I wonder what I would really do. Like, I know you want to say stuff, it's okay to say stuff, but it's like, I don't have the power to go and arrest the police. Maybe that's problematic.
I think when you see something like that, you're like, wow, that was horrible, but at least like the one comfort that I had is like, the United States justice system will do something about it, and like people that do bad things get punished for that. And then like what we've been seeing the past few weeks is like sometimes that doesn't happen.
The thing that was really sort of disorienting is that it wasn't one cop doing it and his partner, it was all these other cops sort of standing around watching.
I think every police officer in the United States probably needs to experience what I just experienced.
I think everyone should give this a shot. And it should not only be for entertainment. I think there should be a whole universe of stuff that we can use this for. And this is definitely something I didn't consider at all. And it's really effective.
So at this point, I'm also working out of USC in the cinema school. So shout out to like Steve, who let me come kick around there, making these crazy projects. But this piece has now had almost 1 million views. So here's a story that barely got any attention, and we had to take a VR piece in order to do it, which is sort of interesting. I know that you think you have to see it under the goggles, but sometimes there's other ways for the VR stories to get out there. And there are pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of discussion about race in America. But then, of course, there's stuff like this that you have to just laugh for a minute. Damn, I googled use of force VR, expecting someone being a Jedi VR. Not what I expected. So you have to take some of those too. But anyway, a little bit more on those. Again, those are the 3D goggles we had to print. The controller, which now you've got these nice controllers. And it was only 2 years ago in August that I stopped making goggles that we were able to start buying them commercially. And I used to have to travel around with 22 motion tracking cameras. With Hunger, I took that to places like Syracuse by myself because nobody really thought it was going to go anywhere, but I was kind of madly obsessed. A little bit more on the making. This is the young woman, Ashley, who snuck out a crucial video from above showing how many officers were involved in the beating. And again, the Border Patrol was coming around and taking everybody's equipment, and she bravely put hers in her purse, and then she actually kept it for a long time before she went public. But the folks over at ICT at USC volunteered to let me make a digital replica of her. And then what we did is we put her in a motion capture suit, and like the way that guy was wearing earlier, which I'll talk a little more about mocap in a minute, but and instead of sitting her in a seat and having her like answer a question like, what'd you see, what'd you do? I had her answer with her body. What did you do that night? How did you act? So in a sense, it was an interview with her whole body, telling her story with her whole body, and not just with her words. I think that's probably the first that happened. We were then commissioned at USC. I was working in the lab there. Now it's one of a full-time PhD student. We'll get into that complicated story another time. But the dean of the cinema school brings in the head of the World Economic Forum. He wants to do a thing together we do on Syria, and this is just a quick trailer of this. This came out in 2013. I think GoPro cameras were maybe just beginning to surface. How do you make something like this journalistically? As you can see, that's a Bible, and you can see how very detailed we were at making sure that everything we showed you had a basis from evidence we gathered between videos and photographs and Google Earth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, even down to trying to make sure we got the rubble in the right places, right? We were really, really fastidious about this. And went to the World Economic Forum, it's so funny, I'm having a brainstorm on his name, oh well, famous musician, and John McCain, and the incredible Syrian contingent. But really, one of the things I was most proud of is got invited afterwards to the Victorian Albert Museum by Martin Roth, who sadly passed away this last summer, and did it as a benefit, was there for 5 days. There you can also see the big old crazy equipment in there. You may know Vangelis McGreedy, who was also working closely with me at that time at USC. These are sort of, the crazy camera storytelling, the old tapestry room. It was not advertised. It was not advertised. So anybody who happened to walk by would see this crazy gear, and they would decide whether they wanted to try it or not. And then we did it with 5 pages of guest book comments. 5 pages, 54 pages. And curators told us the largest outline they'd ever seen, absolutely completely immersed, absolutely fascinating, a real feeling as if you're in the middle of something you normally see on TV news. And you saw the quality of my graphics, you're like, how can that be true? But when you're inside it, it just has a really different feeling. And this was the one that's most important to me. This was a very difficult piece to experience as a Syrian whose family still lived in their homes. Although I felt the piece was inappropriate at first, I've certainly changed my mind after experiencing it firsthand. It is important for the world to bear witness to the situation in Syria, and this is a powerful and effective way to do that. I hope you're able to grow this technology further. So on to Kia. 3 women a day are killed every day in America by their former partners or whatever, and almost entirely by guns. And Kia tells the story of 2 sisters' valiant effort, unsuccessful, to rescue their 3rd sister from a fatal attack by an ex-boyfriend. And all we have is the audio, and so we have to reproduce things, again, from digital, right? And what it is we had 2 911 calls. Both the sisters had called, both the mics were live, and we were able to use it to reproduce what happens in interviews with the sister, right? We were very, very careful to not show anything graphic. And also, if you see on the left, that was the real scene, and on the right is how we produced it digitally. So, and this was a story that I thought was really important to get out there. And ended up being bought by the New York Times and shown in the New York Times VR app. Some of you maybe here have seen Across the Line. We were showing it here, and just talking a little bit how that was made. That was in partnership with Planned Parenthood. And in this piece, we used 360 video and VR to make you cross the line the way young women have to when they go to health clinics, right, to get care. We scan people to put them on the side so that at the end you're listening to real audio, and they turn and they yell at you the way young women are yelled. So how do we do that? We have to take a lip sync performance, and this gives you an idea of the real audio and how we.
You're a whore. You're a whore. You're a whore. You're a little whore. How about stop being a whore? You whore. Shame on you. Start closing your legs. Start having some respect for your body. Maybe your parents should have aborted you.
See, another piece that's here we're showing today tells the story of this young man, who came home to a religious intervention in his house because he was gay, and he refused to back down, and they ended up assaulting him. And again, we had to motion capture the full story and put it on the digital characters, but he helped direct things with me, not in the final scene, but beforehand. We did a lot of staging to make sure that things would work, right? But we also started our first work with holograms in this piece, where we took 4 folks from the transgender community and let them tell messages of peace and hope. Because 40% of homeless youth in America come from the LGBTQ community, and these folks all ended up homeless. Daniel was thrown out by his family after they beat him up, and these folks all were homeless. Really incredible, all of them have incredible, tragic, poignant stories. But all of them have risen above it, and the point of the end of that piece was to let them tell you about, give you a message of hope, like, and talk about how you too could find some hope. This is also the True Colors Fund. A little bit of quick educational for people, a little bit of talking about the two different things, kinematic versus cinematic. This is cinematic, basically. You've got video on a phone or other device. It's captured with 360 cameras, so there's cameras pointing in every direction. And you can get some very beautiful imagery. It's video, but it's flat. It's flat. It is video like any other video. It's just video that's stitched together in a circle. So everywhere you look and up above, it's all around you, and it has a very unique property to it. And we do some really beautiful work with that, with some Camp and Calais. And this is a piece that the New York Times also stand
of 6 of them. It hits near us. It gets this sound of whew.
Here in the Nuba Mountains, our children, our sisters, our fathers have lived entire lives in war.
So that piece required that. But now I'll take you a little bit about photogrammetry. I mentioned it very briefly in that intro video. But this is how we started to make walk-around material. And it's super amazing what has happened technologically in the times that I started making these pieces. On the left-hand corner, those are stills. It's a series of still photographs of this Dali statue, right, that one of my guys took. And basically by taking all the stills and dropping into a program, it'll automatically stitch it together. So the thing on the bottom is a statue now, version that you can walk around. That's photogrammetry. And that's how we made the cell, with Frontline's access to a cell in Maine. For a series they were working on, we had a guy locked in there for 3 hours, taking pictures. And this is the uncleaned up, so sometimes you can see some holes and you understand this is really just photographs that have been dimensionalized, and every once in a while the algorithm doesn't recognize where to stitch things, and we have to go back and do a little bit of cleanup. But basically, that is not a video. That's not a video. That's a dimensionalized series of photographs that you can now walk around. And then we started using the hologram technology that I mentioned before. And the way that works is you take a person and you put them in the middle of this green screen stage and you shoot them with many cameras. It's 50 plus in the end, from every angle. But it's video that then is stitched together with volume. So now you're able to walk around the characters inside
when
the spaces.
I walked into my cell, I didn't realize that I'd be spending 5.5 years of my life in solitary confinement. I look fine, but I'm not. 18 years old, I was new to the system, never really been in trouble before. As an adult, the solitary confinement and the sensory deprivation, years of it drove a relatively sane young man insane. I cut myself thousands of times.
So that's just hologram you can walk around. People want to sit down on that bench.
I hacked an element, I assaulted staff,
right?
Committed arson, and I did a lot of bad things. But that's what solitary can.
I was invited by a bipartisan committee looking into the establishment of the Women's History Museum, and they were putting in a report to Congress asking to have the right to raise money to create a museum for them all. And they wanted to put a VR piece in with this report to kind of show the forward-facing nature of the museum and how it could attract all kinds of different audiences, right, of all ages and all types to this museum. And I decided to do it on this badass woman who was a newspaper editor and a printer. And she actually published the first official Declaration of Independence in which the guys signed their names, because before that it was treason. And you can kind of just barely see at the bottom here. It says printed by Mary Catherine Goddard. Now she'd done a lot of newspaper publishing and she'd never put her full name ever before, so she signed the Declaration of Independence. And not only that, and she wrote lots of crazy, wonderful, radical stuff in her newspapers as editorials. And amazingly, when she died in 1816, she freed her slave and left her all her money. So she was an extraordinary human being. again, like zero money to make this with. Literally, I raised a little bit of money for my friends. So how do you deal with a Revolutionary era story and have no money to remake things? Historic Deerfield had already put together a Revolutionary era, whatever, printing press room, getting late in the day, for people to come and see. So they have everything there. And all I had to do was use that photogrammetry, right? I made what's called point cloud data. We went and shot it with many pictures. Made point cloud data of the real room, and then using that volumetric capture of humans and I did my very best to write a script that used as much as possible the words that she had already written. We put you on scene when this declaration gets picked up and gets posted for the first time.
Beautifully written, as always.
Now you're standing in this revolutionary printing press area. So then there's some issues of like capturing stuff and working with people, and et cetera, et cetera. At the Frontline, we want to do something on melting Greenland, right? That's a really crazy-ass 360 camera for capturing with. But I still like the volumetric. So we did something a little bit unusual. We clamped the camera to the edge of a helicopter.
When you look at the glacier like that, from vantage point of the helicopter, it looks like it's going to be here forever. How could it possibly go away?
But then what I did is I put the video in on what's called like a sphere, and then put you inside an exact replica of the helicopter. So now you're inside the helicopter, and you feel like you're actually flying over this area, and you can see for yourself the flow splitting off and all the things that's going on. And also, what I feel most proud about this piece is that you're with the scientists while they're doing their research, and it really demystifies the science. Like, you know, it's really hard to feel like these, you know, crazy line scientists when you're watching the very simple work that they're doing. It doesn't seem so insane anymore what they're trying to tell people. But that had never been done before, so that was kind of fun, that I know of. However, working with frontline reporters, they didn't quite always understand what photogrammetry was, and they gave us some flat photos that we had to dimensionalize. And so this is actually a flat photograph that we had to add a dimensionalization to it, so when you're at the very end of this piece, you would never know that it wasn't captured in volume, right? You see that's the photograph, and that's the dimensionalization process. And that's the result. We have a hologram standing in the middle of a photoreal environment that matches the exact scenario. And we also did this for underwater as well. There's a great scene where you have to go underwater and see how the currents are getting hot and melting. So as part of those frontline pieces, we worked with USC's Media Impact Project to do a little bit of research, which we're just going to be launching. And really important questions asked: what's the general audience response to a VR journalism experience? And does the audience impact differ if you're using volumetric or 360 video? So for the solitary piece, we found that indeed people felt like it really communicated its physical state. It inspired a lot of interest in VR journalism, even for those very new to the medium. And indeed, room scale, walk around, volumetric with the most effective platform for creating a sense of spatial presence. We're still not sure whether, you know, everybody reported increased knowledge and interest in the issue after seeing it, and certainly media matters. People felt like being there inside, that thing that I reported early on in Mel's space, where I had to be in that bar as close as I could to the action. That's what people are feeling in this experience as well. And certainly with Greenland melting, same thing. For when viewers experience the time-lapse glacial retreat or could dip below the surface of the ocean to witness the behavior of warm water currents, they felt that they got a deeper understanding of climate change than they'd ever had before, and certainly more than 360 video, and they liked the room scale walk-around experience more. They said they were frightened, concerned, and this has just come out, so this is the first time I've been talking about this publicly, so just letting you know. I think USC has before, but you know, they were more absorbed in exploring the virtual space, maybe more so than the facts, but maybe as the novelty wears off, we'll see. More recently, we just did a piece for the LA Museum of the Holocaust. We're capturing Holocaust survivors, telling their stories, and making sure that before they passed, we start to capture these pieces. How do we survive? We have done for things like brands. Do this time-lapse piece that I should really not show. This is a 360 version. That's how it wraps around our pieces connect. But we put it on Fifth Avenue, and it takes you through 1910, 1970, and then to the present in photoreal detail, right? And Cartier pays better than a bipartisan committee looking into women's history, because let me tell you. Similarly, we've done this very interesting work, where we built a spatial visualization tool for the stock markets, where it's actually a live feed of the stock markets. But it's spatialized data, and the way I describe spatialized data is if you can imagine a dinner table, and you don't need a list of cups, flakes, plates, forks, knives, etc. You can very quickly see. You just glance at the table and you know what's there. And not only that, you can discern the pattern. You know how many people are coming for dinner. This lets you drill down into stocks, and if there's videos associated, you can watch that. And we have it in AR and VR as well. And then we have some fun. I worked very closely with this artist, Lindy Lin, who did this crazy project where he slowly walked a brick wall across a busy street in China. And then what we did is, this is not a great video, but there it is. I just captured it quickly. But now you have to walk the crazy brick wall across the street in front of all the traffic while it's coming. And that we launched at the Kid too. It's sort of an interesting way to think about performance art and how do we capture performance art over again in VR, right? Something that doesn't exist again. Anyway, a super interesting piece, and maybe doing another one with the Guggenheim with Lindy Lin, which is really exciting. So last note for women, I was invited to this crazy, I don't know why, really, me, to go to this lunch, and it was with Prince William and like Eric Schmidt of Google and Jimmy Wales of Wikipedia, and it was like maybe 14 people lunch, right? And, you know, needless to say, I was nervous, even though, like, you know, I'd always been disparaging the royals previously, and suddenly, where did that go? But anyway, so I was nervous, and I asked the Prince's hand, where should I sit? And he was like, kind of one over next to Jimmy Wales, looking across at the Prince. And I got so nervous, I did not lean in. I went and sat at the far end of the table, facing nobody. So all I can say to you is, don't do what I did. She's right, lean in. That's it. Thank you very much.